Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Setting Goals and Working with Others in High Pressure Situations. My name is Nicole Walker and I'm the Senior Alumni Engagement Manager here at Griffith, and it's my pleasure to be your host today. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting and pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We're really excited to bring you today's webinar, especially with the Olympics already underway, one of the highest pressure sporting competitions in the world. Some of you may have seen the Vice-Chancellor posted on LinkedIn earlier in the week on Monday. If Griffith University was a country at that stage in the medal tally, we would have been sitting 7th on the medal tally, which is just an outstanding effort, and we're only partway through the games. So we'll post the link now in the chat so you can follow along our athletes and as they progress through their events, and we wish them all the absolute best and with their events. We've got two fantastic speakers joining us today, both Griffith graduates, Naomi McCarthy OAM and Superintendent Dave Scatchings APM. So for today's session, how we're going to run is that Naomi and Dave will each do around a 15-minute presentation each, talking to today's topic, and then we'll move into a live Q&A session. So at any stage throughout today, if you have any questions, just pop them into the chat and we'll do our best to get to them at the end of the session today. So first up today, we're going to hear from Naomi. So I'm going to read you a short bio and then I'm going to hand over to Naomi. So Naomi McCarthy is a two-time Olympian and senior international water polo athlete, with an illustrious athletic career highlighted by an Olympic gold medal. Naomi is honoured in the Sport Australia Hall of Fame, Q Sport Hall of Fame, Water Polo Hall of Fame, and Griffith University Sporting Hall of Fame. Currently, we're very fortunate to have her here as a staff member at Griffith, and she is the manager of the Sports Engagement Program Lead at Griffith Sports College, working closely with Australia's top professional Olympic and Paralympic athletes. Naomi has a Bachelor of Science majoring in Environment and is from the class of 1996. All right, so I'm going to hand over to you now to Naomi. Thanks, Naomi. Take it away.
Thanks very much, Nicole. Really appreciate that introduction, and very happy to be talking to everyone today around goal setting and working in high pressure situations. I thought I might just go over some of my background in sport to start with, and then how that's led into sort of my professional career. In terms of my sporting background, two Olympics, being Sydney 2000, where I was vice captain of the team, and then in Athens, I actually captained the Australian team at the Athens Olympics. I represented Australia over 10 years, and absolutely the highlight for me and for the team was winning that Olympic gold medal in Sydney at a home Olympics, but also we competed in 4 World Championships and 4 World Cups over this time. And I have combined that, which was difficult at times, but with a professional career, which has included the role that I have currently now, being the lead for the sports college and also sport engagement, but over the years doing different roles to keep my toe in the water, so to speak, with a professional career. And some of the other things that I do in sport at the moment that are really have led out of the career that I've had in the pool include a director of the Queensland Academy of Sport for more than 10 years. I'm currently an independent director for Queensland Rugby League, and I'm pleased to say the second female in 100 years to actually be sitting on that board at QRL, and chaired multiple committees there, including the Corporate Social Responsibility Committee. I currently chair the Governance and Remuneration and Nominations Committee. And in addition to that, I'm also an independent member of Hockey Australia's High Performance Committee. So as you can probably imagine, I'm really enjoying the Olympics, both with the number of athletes from Griffith that are over there in Paris representing at the Games. And I have to have a small plug, we are the #1 university in the country for athlete representation at the Olympics. And then looking forward to the Paralympics coming up, where we've also got a lot of athletes competing. I guess I just wanted to give you that background. It highlights the journey that is sport that then can roll into sort of corporate life, and how you apply what some of those achievements in high performance situations and the journey along to Olympic Games in particular, and how they're applicable in multiple different ways. But I'll start with my journey. I always say I was a very average athlete, and in my family, they always used to laugh about how uncoordinated I was, and I still remind them of the fact that I'm the only one in the family that won an Olympic gold medal, so they need to be quiet. But that was a really planned journey for me to go to the Olympics, and in fact, women's water polo was not in the Olympics Games until 2000. Men's water polo was admitted in 1900, and it took 100 years for gender equity to come to our sport, and we were the first Games where women's water polo was included, which added a whole new dimension of pressure, as you can imagine, both at a home Olympics and also being the first time that women's water polo was represented. For me, I think in terms of goal setting, I am very similar to a lot of elite athletes in that I'm very structured. I'm less so now that I'm not an athlete, but very meticulous in planning what I want to do, how I'm going to get from A to B, and what the incremental steps are to achieve this. So for me, starting out, I really focused on first and foremost making the Australian team. What did I need to do? How did I need to prepare? And what were the individual aspects of my preparation in terms of fitness, in terms of strength and skill acquisition that I needed to work on to make the senior Australian team? And then how did I stay in that team? I prepared particularly thoroughly for all internationals. Obviously, for the Olympics, there was an enormous amount of work done, including living in for 8 months together in a centralised camp situation, where individually preparing and as a team preparing for all aspects of what we may be able to expect and may not anticipate for those games, but also had done that as an athlete over the years for world champs and sort of World Cups over the years. Really taking the time, I guess, in terms of goals to analyse where my strengths were and how I needed to rely on those strengths, but also where I could improve and where I needed to improve, not just to, necessarily make a team or stay in a team, but actually to really contribute to the outcomes of my team. So, that comes down to fitness, individual elements of your game, which, may be in the attacking area, shooting, passing, strategy from within the team, but also in defence. So really breaking down what it was that I could do as an athlete for myself, but mostly for my team, and how I might, contribute to the team's overall performance. And I would say absolutely, as a team, we always live by the motto that we won as a team and we lost as a team. And we literally were not about, who played the best or who got, the most goals or who had the most glory. It was shared around amongst us. And at the end of the day, the result in the pool was literally the only thing that mattered for us. Just going on, please, Kai, to the next one, in and around goal setting. There's a lot, people talk about goal setting all the time. What are your longer term goals? For me, they were making the Olympics. And actually, as an athlete, I was so driven by that before women's water polo was admitted to the Olympics, I actually swapped sports to rowing because rowing was in the Olympics, and that was a sport that I thought maybe I could excel at as well. So I had an absolute desire to be at the Olympics. Fortunately, women's water polo was admitted to the Olympics, and that was definitely going to be a better bet for me to make the Olympics. So I jumped back in the pool for that. But as I said, breaking down your goals into what are the smaller achievable goals. The big lofty goal of making the Olympics or winning a gold medal at the Olympics is really hard to achieve, or it can seem overwhelming. But what are the small steps, breaking down the small steps towards your goals that are actually make it more attainable, and you can see a clear pathway and improvement along the way for how you are progressing towards those goals. Taking the time to understand that you're moving towards a particular goal is not a linear trajectory. The pathway may go forward and backwards. It might be up and down. At times it might feel like you're really striving towards a certain goal, and then you might step back and need to reassess. How do you need to reset? What do you need to do now to continue a journey that might not have been one you anticipated? And certainly one of the ones we talk about in sport a lot, and sacrifice may not be the right word, but what are you willing to give? How much are you willing to put in to actually achieve your goals? What is the sacrifice you're willing to do? For Olympic athletes, it is years and years and years of training. It is an absolute grind, and you see the 2 weeks that we're seeing at the moment at the Paris Olympics, where it looks fantastic, and it looks like it's all going well and it's all a lot of fun. The day-to-day grind of the rabbit hole, of training 25 to 30 hours a week, day in, day out, is really difficult at times, and really missing out on, some of the big things in life, traveling constantly, not being at home when, weddings are on and family events and things like that. Certainly giving up, any form of party life through your 20s can be difficult for some people. But what does your goal actually mean to you, and how are you going to put in what you need to do to actually get that goal? If I could just go to the next slide, please. So leading into performance under pressure, and I would have to say, regardless of the fact that, I competed at numerous world champs and World Cups, the actual stress and pressure of performing at the Olympics, at a first Olympics and at a home Olympics, is something that I couldn't have anticipated, and something I probably couldn't have prepared for. It is actually a physical reaction that you have to that stress for the entire week of competition. I lost weight over that time. You find yourself in a situation where you are dealing with nerves every day. We played every day for 6 days. How do you deal with that stress? How do you find a way to turn off the stress at some point, because your body can't run and override the whole time? We had elements also that added to it. We were at home. Every single person that I knew, I felt like, was at the Olympics. The media had put Australia as sort of really unbackable favourites, which was not correct. We were certainly in with a good chance, but it was always going to be close. But there was this public weight of expectation, which we see with a lot of our athletes at the moment. I've done some work on this, since the first Olympics, and I certainly didn't feel the same way going in to the second Olympics. But really understanding performance under pressure is having a process. So being able to know what your process is. If I go to sport, it is about your game day process, or you might apply this to, presenting in public or anything else that you might do in the corporate world that is providing you with a great amount of stress or, anxiety to perform under pressure. What is the process that you go through each time you're playing? How, that bring your body back to the normality of, this is a game, I do this all the time. I had certain exercises I would do in warm-up, in the pool, things that just made me focus on what I was doing rather than thinking about the end result. Really preparing for something can reduce some of that stress or that anxiety around performance as well, because you can go back to the fact that I am prepared for this, I'm ready to go with this, and I understand I'll be nervous, I'll be anxious about it, but I know I've done the work. As athletes, we talk about this a lot, and I've actually done some work with the AIS and some of the commandos actually within the Army around performance under pressure and actually having a way to be present. What can you feel? What can you touch? What can you smell? To just bring your body and your senses back to just the normal rather than overthinking exactly what you're doing. And I'm sure the next presenter, David, it will be across this way more than I am, but actually being able to calm yourself down and concentrate on the things that are around you to bring yourself back to being centered and grounded. Being comfortable with being uncomfortable is a big thing in sport. Understanding that in an environment like the Olympics, you don't know what's going to happen. You're relying on buses. you know, to get you there on time. That doesn't always happen. You don't know what will happen in the game situation. We prepared as a team for multiple different situations to ensure we would still perform under pressure. And one of the most extreme ones was we actually discussed what we would do if our coach had a heart attack on the side of the pool while we were playing. We really tried to think about all the different things that might go wrong or might be different to what we expected, to make you potentially comfortable with that, but also gives you that reassurance that we've prepared for this, we know what's happening. Fortunately, that didn't happen, but you know, it's that preparation or that thought about what else might happen, what will I do if this, you know, this actually happens, gives you the assurance that you can move forward and get the result that you need. The other thing that we really did a lot of work on, and it moves into sort of the teamwork focus, which I know is a really big element sort of in the corporate world as well, is having the uncomfortable conversations with your teammates early, rather than having an environment that's a high pressure environment where things are left unsaid or not dealt with, and that those cracks then really emerge when you're under pressure in the worst sort of situation. We had some of those really hard conversations. We had them respectfully, but some of them were really tough in the environment that we were in, living together, you know, training together for, you know, a couple of years on end. And in the end, our gold medal was won in the dying seconds of the game. We scored in the last 1.5 seconds of the match. We held together extremely well. And I still to this day believe that if we hadn't have had those conversations, if we weren't upfront with what we needed individually as a team and called out anything that was not culturally acceptable from our teammates early, that we would not have won that game. It would have been easier not to have those conversations at the time, but it was not going to end well, you know, when you're in a high performance situation like the Olympics, to not be honest and have that conversation. And that's a really big part of teamwork, and also having your team being able to perform under pressure is where everybody respects everybody. You don't have to be everyone's best friend, but you need to respect what your teammates bring to the table. And you also need to be able to respectfully speak to them about what that contribution is, and if it's not within a sporting team going culturally the way it needs to. Kai, can I just grab the next slide, please? This is just a lovely photo of us straight after the gold medal winning match, as you can tell by all the smiles on our faces. And this is something I really, you know, have seen within our team, which is, you know, a success is driven by dedication, which we had obviously purpose, a joint purpose for the team, and then a really good team culture. And this successful team will be bound together forever. And we have found that with that 2000 team. 13 girls, really different backgrounds, in any other environment probably wouldn't have been brought together, but are connected continually and forever by a shared achievement, and the really hard work and performance that we managed to do on that day. Just to the last slide, please. Just speaking, I guess, a little bit to some of these things that then feed into, you know, the environment that I found myself in after sport. The skills of, you know, goal setting, working under pressure, being really performance orientated, so really driven by the outcome of what you're achieving, goal focused, and also being passionate about what you were doing is something that has really transferred into my post-sporting life, as well as some of the leadership skills that I developed through sort of captaining the team over that many years. Those skills that you get, you know, from sport, but then also from other roles, they're so transferable into everything. I have a science degree, and I manage sport engagement and the elite athlete program, which is obviously based on some lived experience, but a lot of it is around some of those skills that I developed as an athlete and then, you know, continued to work on post-sporting, my sporting life. I've been really fortunate to work in sport and have found roles that I've really enjoyed. I'm leading the Women in Sport strategy here at Griffith, and the governance side of sport that I'm able to participate in, particularly at the moment through Queensland Rugby League, which has been, you know, traditionally a very male-dominated sport, and really being able to drive some of that change that comes through having female directors around the board table, and standing up and speaking around what that gender equity within sport needs to look like and should look like is something that I found extremely rewarding, and is another environment, I guess, that is high pressure. Definitely for me, connection to sport, to team, and to those values that I've lived as an athlete remains, and has held me in really good stead. So I think I'm probably at the end of my time, and can take some questions at the end of it. Thanks very much, Kai.
Thanks, Naomi. We've got some construction going on in the building. I don't know if that's coming through on the sound here, but there just is some construction happening in the building I'm in at the moment, but that's all right. Thank you so much, Naomi. That was wonderful to hear from you, and congratulations again on that gold medal in Sydney. What an absolutely amazing achievement, and such a special one. First time water polo was offered, and in front of that home crowd who all came out to see you, and it was really good to hear the focus on that, the importance of that process and the preparation to help when you're actually in the situation, and all the nerves and the stress are there with you. So we'll come to questions. I can see a couple of questions starting to come through. Please, just as you think of them, drop them in there and we'll get to them at the end. So I'm now going to hand over to Dave to speak. So I'm just going to read a brief bio before I hand over to him. So Superintendent Dave Scatchings is the officer in charge of the communications group at the South Australia Police, or SAPOL, and he boasts a career rich in diverse roles and extensive experience. He's a recognised expert in police aviation. In his diverse experience also includes leading SAPOL's longest running and most effective cannabis operation and managing a crime gangs task force. In recognition of his contributions, David was awarded the Australian Police Medal in the 2023 King's Birthday Honours. He graduated from Griffith with a graduate certificate in aviation management as part of the class of 2013. And it's now my pleasure to hand over to you, Dave, to take us through your session. Thank you.
And thank you very much. We speak of pressure, and I don't think there's any more pressure that I could talk about than trying to give a presentation after an Olympian. Well done, Naomi. I've got some work to do. So thanks for the opportunity. I am going to take you through my career and also my bit about my personal life to give you a picture of how I've got to where I am today. And then at the end of my presentation, I'll talk about a bit about how to manage stress, or how I do, and also how I manage situations under pressure. So thanks, Kai. Yeah, so my career, I've had a privileged career in the South Australia Police, graduating 30 years ago. Celebrated the graduation only a couple of days ago. I headed on out to Elizabeth patrols to police work out there, and very quickly wanted to become a detective to hone my skills on catching bad guys. I was lucky enough to work at the Avatar Outlaw Motorcycle Gang section for a while, and then in about 2005 I decided to chase my passion for aviation and head into the Star Group, where I was lucky enough to fly on the helicopter for the next 12 years, in addition to a variety of other things at Star Group, high-risk operations and search and rescue. In about 2018 or so, I decided to look for a promotion into the officer ranks, and I was fortunate to be promoted to an inspector and then posted to combined operations section, where I managed what's known with a friendly name as the Zoo, which is our police dogs, our police horses, and also our boats. Shortly after, I had the job of managing our aircraft services, which is our police helicopters and aeroplanes. COVID came along in 2020, and I received a phone call on a Sunday afternoon to lock down the Adelaide airport by the Tuesday afternoon, and there I spent the next 12 months of my career managing our response to COVID. And following that, I was fortunate to head back to Crime Gangs Task Force, where we work on the outlaw motorcycle gangs, at a particularly interesting time when the ANOMAP and Operation Ironside investigation was being undertaken. Following Crime Gangs, I was promoted to superintendent and posted to communications group, which is where I find myself some 2.5 years later. In my current role, I manage the 000 and dispatching and also the non-urgent calls into the police, and looking after community safety, of course. Thanks, Kai. So the important stuff, and I've put that underlined, that it is important stuff. It's not your work, as much as we often think our work and our career is the most important thing we do. And the important stuff for me is what happens out of work, and in particular my family. So I'm married to Nat, and I've got two beautiful kids. Max is 16 and Lara's 14. I have a passion for aviation. So ever since I was a kid, basically, I've been flying aeroplanes or jumping in the back of helicopters. That's taken me through both in and out of my career. I've been fortunate to do it for work and also out of work. It'll come later on. My passion for aviation will come into this talk about how we deal with stress. I'm also, I didn't put a dot point for it, but a pretty highly driven sort of person. So I'm always trying to do something. My family will know well that I'm always have something on the go. And I'm also committed to giving back, not only to my family, but to the community. I do what I can to give back to those who don't have the same lifestyle and advantages and privileges I do. I set up and managed Ride Like Crazy, which was a charity event back in about 2008, 2009 for a work colleague with a gland tumour, and was fortunate to manage that event, which then followed on for 10 more years and raised over $1.6 million for charity. Each year I and my family head into the Women's and Children's Hospital where I am the Father Christmas, and I've done that for around about 14 or 15 years. That's a real grounding event for me. It brings me back every year to how lucky I am to have the life that I do. And I've also put down a fishing competition that I managed as part of raising money for the Women's and Children's Hospital. I said that I'm driven. I have also taken my family on that journey. Together, we set ourselves a challenge a number of years ago to climb the highest mountain and peak in each state and territory in the country. And over the next 7 or 8 years, we've travelled across the country, found the mountains wherever they might have been in remote Australia, and then climbed them, which was one hell of a challenge and one that has been very rewarding. I set myself a goal back in 2012 or so to ride the entire Tour Down Under. So the pros come over from all over the world and ride it. I got up each morning and rode that, mainly so I could understand and enjoy the experience, but just as another goal that I set myself. And to finish off, this one's not yet complete, but I've got a very firm plan to break a Guinness World Record by the end of this year, which I'll talk about later on. Thanks, Kai. So I just want to take you through a couple of high pressure situations I have faced. There have been many in my career. Some are a momentary situation, and some are things that last for up to 12, 24 months. The first one is, and you'll see on your screen there, that the South Australia Police grounded our air wing back in 2018. I was instrumental in not only really bringing those sorts of issues to the attention of the Commissioner, but then being tasked with rectifying or fixing up the air wing in the South Australia Police, which involved a fair bit of work and a fair bit of pressure. There were time constraints, financial constraints, and all sorts of other pressure that contributed to making it a very hard job to do and a high pressure situation. Thanks, Kai. The next one I wanted to cover off on was, and again, another high pressure, high stress type role within the police, was the COVID for the police. So I received a phone call, like I said, on a Sunday afternoon, and then by Tuesday afternoon, I've been tasked with locking down the entire Adelaide airport. So I didn't know what that meant when I received that phone call. I do now know that it meant 12 months of very hard work, very long hours, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, and a lot of stress. Effectively, we had to roll into the Adelaide airport, which is traditionally managed by the airport with the support of the Australian Federal Police, and the airlines have pretty much a free rein to bring people in and out of this state. We went in and set up border control, which was a process that we would stop and check every person that was coming into the state via ID, and if they didn't have the necessary passes or approvals to enter the state during that COVID period, and they were often either transported into accommodation for 2 weeks or sent back to their estate that they had originated from. Likewise, it involved the international repatriation of a heap of people. So anyone who's coming back from overseas at that time would do an automatic 2 weeks inside quarantine. I had to set up all the processes to do all that. Very early in the piece, because of the complexity and the unknowns around the situation, I did what I thought was the right thing at the time by distributing my mobile phone number and email to industry around the state. I became nearly a 24/7 call centre on my mobile phone for people and industry and big companies who really didn't know what was going on with COVID. So I ended up doing some days, 16 hours a day, nearly 7 days a week for 12 months. And it was hard work. I'll go back into a bit later on how I managed that pressure and the stress involved. Next slide. And the third one I'll just quickly cover off on is in relation to pressure is my time at the STAR group. So the first high pressure, high stress part of my journey in STAR group is actually the selection course. That's 4 days of working very hard physically and mentally. I think we had about 3 hours sleep over 4 days, and throughout that period the idea was to fatigue us and then to test us to try and assess whether we were suitable for a role in the STAR group. So that was hard work, high pressure, high stress that we had to deal with. Throughout my journey in STAR group there were a variety of different jobs that I was involved in, both as an operative and also a supervisor/manager, just a couple to name to put some perspective onto it. And these happen every day in the police. I managed a search for a elderly male who had disappeared in the Flinders Ranges in Wilpena Pound in the north of the state, the mid-north of the state. I knew as the manager of that search that I had a critical time frame to find that person, or he was not going to make it. So high pressure, high stress, heap of resources to coordinate and to manage, knowing that there were critical time frames involved. And finally, there were a variety of sieges that we would attend in STAR group. I have attended sieges where the police have been involved in shootings. I've been to sieges where we've had to go into houses where people want to shoot us or hurt us, and I've been to sieges where innocent people are involved, and we've had to take action at short notice to resolve the situation. So that's a bit of a summary of the different situations that I've dealt with over time. And now I'm just going to jump back to goal setting and some of the stuff that I do to support goal setting. A bit of an ethos or a bit of the way I think. And none of this is textbook. This was written on a bit of scrap paper earlier on to bring into the presentation. So it's honest and straight off how I do things. And I adopt a life is short, play hard type approach. And those that know me will know that well. I give everything a crack and make sure I get as much as I can into my life. I also believe personally that it's better to try and fail than it is to not try at all. So you're better off across the range of different things that you might be thinking about doing, actually giving it a crack and seeing if you can do it, because you're almost guaranteed that even if you don't achieve what you're trying to achieve, that you'll learn something from it and it'll make you a better person and set you up for the next time. I always give back, so I'm constantly thinking about and working on how I can give back to my friends, to my family, to my work colleagues, and to the wider community. I'm a bit of a believer in, the more you give, the more you get back. So for me personally, every one of my goals revolves around or comes back to giving back to other people. Be the best you can be and do the best you can do. So if you adopt that mantra and you're always trying to be your best, that's the only thing you can do. No one can ask anything else of you other than to be the best you can be and do the best you can do. And I should probably add to be as nice as you possibly can to people as well. If you can do those three things, life will look after itself for you. Then in terms of setting your goals and committing to them, so you want to have some short, medium, long-term goals. They might be anything. You might be a student studying You might have headed on to do a master's degree. You might now be working in a occupational business where you're looking for promotion. You might be trying to make a lot of money. You might be trying to get fit, or you might be trying to do something for your family. If you have short, medium and long-term goals for all of those things, then you're always striving and driving to achieve something else in your life. And importantly, with your goals and committing to them is bringing others with you. So there's no point whatsoever going solo at everything you do and having no one to share the journey with. Importantly, you need to bring other people with you. Again, your family, your work colleagues with you. That's important. And I guess the last part of goal setting, you are on a lifelong journey. So it doesn't start and stop at a certain point. For the rest of your life, you're going to be on this journey where you can choose to set goals and choose to achieve things or not. For me, it's pretty much get as much as I can out of life, and it doesn't stop for me. Next slide. And now, how do I manage pressure and stress? So always prioritise yourself, your health and your family, and there's nothing more important than that. Flowing on from that is having a work-life balance. So you have to make sure you're not overworking, not studying too much, and not staying at work too long and getting up early and going home late. Have a hobby as well. So for me, it's aviation. I go gliding at the gliding club. That's my get out of work thing to do. Your hobby could be anything. I built a support network. So I've got a group of close friends, work colleagues and family that I can reach out to. So if I'm having a hard time at work, I have a 24/7 mate who I can ring, or of course my family. You have to have a support network. So when you're finding yourself in challenging times, you can reach out to those people. Knowing your limits. So there's no point setting a goal to climb Mount Everest, for instance, if you can't achieve it. I know I probably wouldn't have the fitness to climb Mount Everest as much as I'd like to, so I wouldn't ever set that as a goal. Relying on your experience and training. So Naomi touched a bit on the stuff at STAR. Every job that we did there, we were reliant on our experience and our training, and we trained so much down there that it would become what we refer to as muscle memory. So when it came to the crunch and you needed your skills, they would automatically support you. For instance, pulling your weapons out, etc. Be confident in your own ability. So I know my strengths and weaknesses. I am confident that I know what I can and can't do. And if you are confident, then you can pretty much own any situation. Learn to delegate and to trust your team. So as a manager in the police, if I can't trust my team and I can't delegate, I end up owning everything. We are surrounded by really good people who are here to support us, and it's important that we can delegate and then trust them. It's also okay to say no. So in some work environments, you might be under significant pressure from managers or other people to complete certain work. At a certain point, you can say no, whether you're not qualified, unexperienced, haven't got the time, etc. And also, when you don't achieve what you're trying to achieve, or when you fail, for want of a better word, it's probably not as bad as it seems. There's a whole heap of really bad things happening in the world. You don't pass your exam, you don't do this, you don't do that. It is probably not as bad as it seems. And thanks, Clyde. And finally, it's about enjoying the rewards. So we talk about goal setting and managing the stress that comes with different goals and work and etc. You must enjoy the rewards. Make the most of every opportunity. So at any one time, I'm looking at a whole different heap of things that I might be wanting to do. I'll make the most of all those opportunities and do the very best that I can do. I won't always succeed. So there are things that I have wanted to do that I haven't achieved, but I know that each time I try, I'm going to do my very best, accepting that I will not always succeed. And you're only competing against yourself. I often speak about that in terms of promotion within my organisation. The only person that really cares about whether you're being promoted or not is yourself. So if you remember that, you can take the foot off the pedal a fraction and just enjoy what you're doing and where you're at. When you try and do something, you set yourself a goal and do or don't achieve it, it's important to debrief it or reflect on it and to understand what went right and what went wrong and what you might do next time, and then to move on. So set your goal, give it a crack, either pass or fail, learn from it, move on to the next goal, and then use what you learned from the last attempt to make yourself a better person. Take your time to enjoy your own achievements. So I've been lucky enough to achieve a variety of things over time. I always try and step back and have just to look back at what I've achieved and reflect on it and enjoy it and be proud of it. And finally, and probably most important, is to always acknowledge the people who support you. So I'm surrounded by a group of beautiful family and really good friends who support all the different things that I do. And I always do my very best to acknowledge them and thank them for their support on the journey. So that's about it from me. I'll be looking forward to some questions afterwards. And yeah, thanks again for the opportunity.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks for that, Dave. It was wonderful to hear your story and what a diverse career you've had, and a whole different range of high pressure situations you've either found yourself in or you've deliberately set yourself up for. So congratulations on all that you have achieved so far, and no doubt still will continue to achieve into the future. So yeah, we've got some questions coming through. So just for our attendees today, feel free to keep posting them and we will get through as many as we can today. There's a variety of different questions, and I'll just start running through them now. Our first one here is probably for you, Naomi, and so it's not it's around what's your advice to older people who are wanting to remain competitive in senior sport? Is that something you'd be able to give any tips to us today?
Depends what you call competitive in senior sport. I definitely would not be competitive if I went to Paris now and tried to compete. But I have stayed active and healthy and done a variety of exercise, including marathon and half marathon since I retired. And I'm a really big fan of, not just for the physical attributes, but also for the mental ones, of staying fit and healthy and active every day. And I think that sets you up in sport. And I still do some master sport, although not particularly well. But also within your work environment, is having that clear head from exercising consistently.
Awesome. Thank you. Our next question is for you also, Naomi, but Dave, you have probably been in a similar situation, so let me know if you'd want to chime in as well. But it's around, the question is, I think it's very important, as you said, to have hard conversations early. How do you have those hard conversations with people that may be unwilling to have them with you?
Yeah, that's a really tricky one, and particularly within the work environment. I have always been someone that believes in having a conversation or expressing your thoughts early, and I guess that makes it easier, and made it easier as a captain or leading in a situation to do that. Within the environment of a team sport, it is about setting the expectations of what you're doing, the culture of the team, and what the expectations and the boundaries are for that team. If those are really clearly defined and the whole team has bought into that and discussed those, it makes it easier to then have those harder conversations when somebody is stepping outside of those clearly defined and agreed boundaries.
Thank you. Dave, is that something you want to talk to as well, that you've come across in your professional settings?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you. Hard to beat your answer again, Naomi. That was very good. No, difficult conversations are part of my everyday career as a manager in SAPOL. So importantly, and it's become increasingly more important as everyone's facing the different challenges in life that we all face, is actually showing empathy to the person that's involved, understanding what they're trying to talk about, taking the time and making the time to listen to people, and again, I guess communicating my position and trying to find some sort of compromise between what they're asking and what I'm putting across. So every conversation is different. It's important that you go in with an open mind and you're there to support your staff and your people.
Awesome, thank you. And this next question I can put to you both. David, might go back to you first. So the question is, how can we develop resilience to handle the pressures of demanding projects?
Yes, thanks. Yeah, another really good question. So I guess resilience in my role and as a senior manager in Staple is non-negotiable. So I've built my resilience personally through leaning on other people, working, like I said before, working closely with good work colleagues to support me, understanding my limits and limitations, putting steps in place to make sure that if I reach my limit, that I'm aware of it and can fix it. And I guess acutely looking after yourself, that's the most important thing. You must, if you can look after yourself through the journey, then it builds your own resilience, and we can do what we need to do.
Thank you. And Naomi, how about yourself for developing resilience to handle the pressures of demanding projects?
I think from a sporting context, sport naturally builds resilience. That is, in essence, what sport is. You're dealing with injury, a lot of training, high pressure situations, things not going the way you want them to. So resilience is built into that sort of at all times. But it's about, for me, also trying to put yourself in those situations as often as you can, so that you can learn from them, whether it's in high pressure situations within sport or within work, but being the person to sort of stand up and be willing to, extend yourself in a certain project or a presentation or something like that to actually gain that experience and that confidence that comes from trying something that's a little bit different, a little bit outside of your comfort zone.
Awesome. Thank you. Dave, this next question's for you. It is around how did you balance your family responsibilities with such long days of work? I think we're talking there the 16-hour days during that COVID period.
Yeah, thanks for that question. And I guess for all of the police and emergency services and many other people, COVID was something we'd never experienced before. It came as a shock. We sort of went from reading about it in the paper or watching on TV to suddenly we're locking down the entire state and imposing restrictions that we still probably can't comprehend that we did. For me, and being very privileged to have a supportive family, it was about communicating directly, a good solid line of communication with my family about what was happening. It was about sharing some of the information about what I was doing, but not all of it, for obvious reasons. And it was, I guess, really about making sure that the people who were watching me go through that understood why, and that there was light at the end of the tunnel. So we always knew that at a certain point, we would recover from COVID and there'd be an end goal that we're trying to achieve, and that was well understood by all of us.
Yeah, and this next one's an extension of that, but also I'll put this one to Naomi too. But Dave, the question is, how did you maintain your health throughout the pressure?
Yeah, some really good questions, thanks. It is a combination of exercise. I try and exercise most days of the week. It's also about diet. Very, very lucky to actually be married to a personal trainer, so I eat quite well, certainly when she's around, and trying to minimise alcohol. So, not drinking every night of the week and restricting it to manageable amounts. So there's that part of it, and I guess the mental health part. Because otherwise your physical and mental health to balance is, again, by reaching out to good friends and talking. So I haven't had the need to engage with psychologists or psychiatrists because of a good network of people that I can reach out to.
Thanks, Dave. And Naomi, I know you spoke around how you lost weight when you were in the Olympic Village, and obviously you've geared your training and your diet and nutrition, everything up into the lead to maximise. And then there's some factors, I guess, out of your control and yourself. I guess, how do you maintain your health throughout pressure situations?
Yeah, through the sporting career, the things that Dave's talking about, I totally agree with in life, but we didn't need more exercise, better nutrition or anything like that because we were getting all of that more than anything. It's actually more around the mental health side of things and having that time away to decompress from whatever the pressure is. In this case, it's sport. So having one day a week where you did not get in the pool was extremely important over the length of my career, and having an escape from what is that pressure situation, or, you know, the repetitive training of sport is really important. So that is, you know, maybe it's speech, maybe it's book, maybe it's walking the dog, whatever it is, but something for yourself that is away from that environment is really important.
Thank you. This next one I'll stay with you initially, Naomi, and perhaps looking at, so it's around what strategies do you consider important when working with co-workers from different backgrounds, work cultures and age groups? And I think it'd be really interesting to get your perspective from being in that high pressure situation of the water polo team, where you all have a very clear goal in terms of what you're wanting to achieve, to perhaps maybe in your day-to-day work environment now, where there's maybe a bit more variety in terms of different motivation, skill sets, and where that people are in the journey, and how if you employ different tactics for both situations.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting one. I find probably one of the biggest takeaways from my sporting career that I apply into my now corporate career is that the leadership skills that I developed from captaining a team. And it's actually, for me, it's around listening and not being the person that drives everything all the time, not being the one that is, you know, dictating what's happening, but actually the person that is listening and providing space for different people to put forward suggestions. Obviously, you know, if you're leading, you then need to actually decide which of those go through and which is, you know, most important. But being able to sort of understand and accept that people have got different opinions and different backgrounds, and that's actually of great value to better outcomes, whether they're in sport or within sort of the corporate world.
Thank you. And Dave, I know you spoke around empathy. Is there anything else that you'd like to add in terms of your approach to a similar situation?
Yeah, I might just have to get you to just expand on that question again, if you don't mind, sorry.
No worries at all. I'm just scrolling back. Back up to the top. But it was around strategies that you use when working with co-workers from different backgrounds, work cultures and age groups, in terms of how you get everyone on the same page to move forward towards that common goal.
Sure. So I guess critical to all of that is communication. So as a manager with a diverse workforce, both from different backgrounds and different ages and different places in the organisation and also the state, my approach to it is basically relying on really good communication. So if everyone understands what we're after, how we're after it, why we're doing it, and, you know, what the timelines are, etc., then things will often flow for the better. And I guess the other part, we were sort of talking about empathy there, but I have an approach here that if we look after our people, so a real people first approach, then everything looks after itself. So we devote a lot of time to try and make our workplace a place that people want to come and enjoy, and they feel safe here, and they can do their work here, and they go home with a smile on their face, and then come back the next day. And I know that if I can continue that momentum with the people here, that all the other stuff will look after itself.
Awesome, thank you. This next one, Dave, is for you, and it's around, do you have any advice when working within a team in a high pressure situation that you may not agree with personally? For instance, orders from above that you might personally disagree with, but where your job requires having to follow them and to bring the team along with you for that journey.
Yeah, that's a good question. Pretty relative to being in the police. We have a hierarchical structure where we're ranked from commissioner right down to constable, and there's a really good reason for that, and that's so that when we are in pressure situations, that that everyone knows their position and understands who they need to report to and who they ask questions from and who the supervisors and managers are, so that we can manage those situations without the need to try and work out who's in charge, etc. Importantly, in any part of police work, there's always a potential for someone to have an alternate opinion to either a supervisor or a manager or someone of lower rank. Again, it comes back to communication. So you have to be able to communicate and use your communication skills, written or verbal, to communicate your position and then to relay that to the person that you have a different opinion with. And I guess from my perspective, it's really important as a manager receiving that sort of feedback that I'll actually listen to it and try and understand it, and then either compromise or communicate my position and the reasons I've adopted it.
Awesome, thank you. I'm just conscious of time. We've got a couple of questions, and they both, or a few of them relate particularly to motivation, around motivating others. And obviously you are both very highly motivated yourselves, but I guess how do you encourage or create an environment to motivate others? So Naomi, I might go to you first, and then to you, Dave.
Sure, Nicole. Look, as you can probably imagine, in if you're looking at sport in a team environment that's competing at the Olympics, motivation is not generally something that is lacking in anyone. But I guess it's around everybody working towards the same goal. For me, it's not around dictating things, and this is what we will do and this is how you will do it. It's more, for me, it's around leading by example. Being the person that is living the values that we're talking about, the culture that we're talking about, taking the actions that will move the team towards, the longer term goal. And then, that naturally brings the rest of the team along with you.
Thank you. And Dave, how about yourself in terms of motivating others?
Yeah. Thanks, Naomi. You pretty much took the words out of my mouth on that one. So it's about having a goal, whatever that might be, and it's about bringing people on the journey. So I make sure if I'm going to change something in the workplace, or I'm going to bring in something innovative, or look to improve something, that I'll communicate with my team about why I'm doing it, what the benefits are, what the risks are of not achieving it, and then bring them on that journey. And if they come on that journey with you, of course, it makes it easier to achieve your end goal.
Thank you. And it looks like you've inspired some others wanting, in terms of their fitness and wanting to get out and try new things. So we've got a question here around how can civilians or professionals access commando training, like you mentioned, Naomi, and Dave, what are the options for individuals to engage in police force training? So Naomi, I might go to you first, I guess, and any tips or advice there that you could give to the audience.
Sure. The training or the interaction that I had with the commandos was actually under an Army and Australian Institute of Sport program that was called Gold Medal Ready. It was specifically designed for gold medal potential athletes, including actually one of our current gold medalists, Jess Fox, participated in the program. So unfortunately, it wasn't for civilians or anything like that, but it was particularly useful for me in terms of running through process and grounding yourself, particularly in performance and pressure and also motivation.
Awesome, thank you. And Dave, is there anything on any advice there in terms of individuals wanting to get involved?
Yeah, so from the STAR group, sort of that higher level of training, there are a variety of different companies online that you can find to give you some sort of training and recommendations to achieve that level of fitness. But in terms of South Australia Police and the fitness required to join our organisation, our recruiting department will be very happy, of course, to provide anyone with that information that wants to consider a career in the police. I certainly, as a 18-year-old, I think I was when I joined the academy, had to put some work into getting fit to achieve my goal of joining the police. And I can say it's a fantastic career, and one that I look forward to staying in. And yeah, getting fit, if that's what you have to do to get in here, well, I highly recommend it.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. We're pretty much at time, but we've managed to get through a fair few questions. And I think looking at the questions, there's a lot of interest in learning more around how you have both achieved what you have achieved, and some requests for the slides as well. So we will, both Naomi and Dave have agreed that we can share those slides with you. And as we mentioned, this session is being recorded today. So we will email that out to you once the recording is available. available and also share the slide pack as well. But it's been fantastic. So many great takeaways that I can see people are taking and really looking at how they can apply it across a whole diverse, different array of situations that they're working or operating in. So thank you again very much, Dave and Naomi, and thank you to our audience for giving up your time today to join us. I really hope you found the session valuable. Our next webinar will be on Wednesday, the 30th of October with Kim McCosker. She's a Griffith graduate and also the founder of 4 Ingredients, which is now a formidable Australian publishing house that has just released its 42nd book. And that's all just started from that very first 4 Ingredients book. So incredible. So we will share more details about that soon, but put that date in your diary, 30th of October. And then as we exit out today to close out proceedings, we're going to share a video for you from the university's campaign to create a brighter future for all. We've just recently hit the $100 million milestone as we strive towards our target of $125 million. So the impact of the campaign is incredible, and we've just got a short video to share with you around what is happening in that space. So thank you all for your time today, and let's see how Griffith University is creating a brighter future for all.
It's a simple purpose. Act now to create a brighter future. Not just for some, but for all. This is the bold idea that Griffith University was founded upon. A different kind of university, driven by a different purpose. Today, this is more important than ever.
Over 600,000 people, mostly young children, die from malaria each year, and they come from the poorest countries in the world.
Our ultimate goal is to develop a universal malaria vaccine against the deadliest form of the malaria parasite.
If you have a spinal cord injury and get paralysed, you're paralysed for life. So we need a treatment that gives the patients their bodies back.
For too long there's been no hope for people, and now this incredible team of medical researchers are starting to make changes that we've never seen before.
Our priority is to break cycles of disadvantage. We're working with mothers in prison and leaving prison to build safe, stable, dignified and fulfilling lives. This work is about empowering them to be the mothers that they want to be and to be able to support their children to have better futures as well.
Sport can be a powerful tool for national identity and diplomacy. Through the program, we work with our Asia Pacific neighbours to really uplift their performance and enable them to go back home with new knowledge that they can share with others in their community.
As a barrister, I've worked on some of the biggest cases in Indigenous history, and I always thought the missing person in the room was an Indigenous female barrister.
This is so much more than financial support. They have mentored me, they have built my network.
Having Alicia as the first recipient, we couldn't imagine a better fit.
Climate change is an everyday reality already. We are seeing mass impacts, floods, bushfires, heat waves. But I think what adaptation offers us is hope. How can we help communities to make better decisions that will keep them safe in the future?
We are part of a global community, and I believe that we have a moral responsibility to help countries who are suffering.
I really believe that everything is possible, and I know that our researchers believe that as well.
It is about being able to think about a better world.
At Griffith, we will never stop rising to the challenge, responding to what our communities need, pioneering new ways to help those who need it most. Join us. Together, we can do the things that matter today to create a brighter future for all.